The death of Charlie Watts, the drummer from the Rolling Stones, has left the music world grieving. And today, as I make this video, I also learned of the death of the actor Ed Asner. So why and how can the deaths of people who we have never met have such a profound impact? So today we're going to explore how we grieve when celebrities die. Join our Grievolution community by subscribing to the channel, and be sure to turn on the notifications so that you know every time we take a deep dive into all that is grief. Charlie Watts joined the Rolling Stones in 1963, and so for decades people have loved listening to his drum playing, and in fact he's now being described as the heart of the Rolling Stones group. As a grief therapist, I've witnessed that grief comes from many sources. Sometimes that source can come from the death of someone who we have never known. I had this experience at the tender age of 13 when Jim Croce, the singer-songwriter, died, and I insisted that my friend play and replay the Time in a Bottle song while I wept. It was so confusing to me how the death of someone I had never met could hold my heart in such a place of sadness. So why and how does this happen? How do we mourn and grieve the death of celebrities who we have never met? So number one, generally we connect with an artist through their lyrics or their poetry, their artwork, their music, because they have created something that touches us, that we respond to. And what that means is it then becomes a very distant relationship that has a very personalized meaning. When Jim Croce died, and I tortured myself by listening to Time in a Bottle song again and again, it resonated with that awkward 13-year-old, big picture, big world questions about how limited is our time, what is my role in the world, mortality and immortality, and limited time. I laugh now thinking clearly the future makings of a grief worker were at play even when I was 13. The second reason we may grieve an artist or a poet or a musician whom we've never met is because they may have some special significance in someone who we have loved and lost life. So it's almost like grief through second degree, by association, grief by association. The Wizard of Oz has taught me all I needed to know in life, both as a child, an adolescent, an adult, and as a parent. When I hear Somewhere Over the Rainbow sung by Judy Garland and I cry, it's not necessarily because of Judy Garland's death. I believe it's because that song makes me feel so connected to my parents, who both died when I was pretty young, and I believe that that's what my grief response is to that song. And it's a hard song for me to hear, and while I celebrate it and love it, I need to be in charge of when and how I hear it. That is a grief reaction because it is associated with people who I have loved and lost. The third reason why the loss of somebody who we have never met can have a profound impact on us is that the art or the music or the poetry of the individual takes us back to a time or a place that we have sentimental feelings, fond memories, tragic attachments to, deep loss associated with. I can remember clearly the time, the place, the moment, and the event when I learned of Princess Diana's death. When Princess Diana died, the world grieved, and I resonated with that world grief. When Princess Diana died, so went with her the people's princess vision and kindness and gentleness that we were all ready to grieve. When Princess Diana died, whom we had all seen as a kind, gentle, loving figure, when she died in such a violent way, we were all assaulted with the nature of her death. Hence, the grief came from many sources around the loss of Princess Diana in the world. Grief of a celebrity can span the globe. It gives us a sense of belonging. We are united in our grief. We are united in wishing it were different, and we are united in reflecting and honoring. And when icons die, it also reminds us of our sense of powerlessness. The fourth reason why the death of a celebrity can have such a profound grief impact on us is that icons are larger than life. And when they fall, they remind us all of each of our own individual vulnerability and mortality. Grief begets grief. Experiencing the grief of someone you have never met is a normal, natural occurrence. So please let's normalize what happens when we grieve the death of a star. So just a quick review that often that grief that we are experiencing comes from, though distanced, it feels like a personalized relationship because their artwork has touched us. It can remind us of somebody who we have loved and lost. It can come from a place of worldwide view of grief, a worldwide experience of grief. And it can come from a place of our own sense of vulnerability, our own life experiences with grief, our own life experiences with mortality. It's important that we please recognize this nuance of grief. If the death of a star, of an icon, of a poet, of a musician, of someone unknown to you, a work mentor, a philosopher, if you could comment below about how their passing had an impact on you, I think that we would then be able to recognize this dimension of grief and support one another in our Grievolution community where we are doing grief differently. If this video has been helpful, please like it with the thumbs up down below so that YouTube will know to share it with more people who may actually be searching for information or support around grief that they are experiencing. Please don't underestimate the grief that you can experience from the death of someone you may have never known. And as always, doing your grief work requires kind thoughts, kind words, and a kind heart of self-compassion. Take good care, and I look forward to visiting with you again.